up, my channel? It is your friendly neighborhood sassy blonde writer coming at you with another writing video. Today we are talking about beginner's guide to publication. The publication process, some of the different terms you need to know. Now I'm making this video because I recently was on Facebook and one of my friends is trying to publish a children's book, which is going to be totally awesome and I'm really excited for them. However, they were asking on Facebook because they didn't really know where to start with the publishing process. The publishing process, there's a lot of different things that you need to know when you're just starting out, especially depending on which path to publication you choose, and it can be a little overwhelming at first. And I know that a lot of AuthorTube videos tend to go for like the 201 or the more advanced, like nitty-gritty of publication, which is perfectly fine, but I know when I was first trying to figure out all of this stuff, I had trouble figuring out some of the terminology. So this is just kind of your introduction to publishing terminology, different paths you can take, and an overview of some of the pros and cons to the different paths of publication. So if that friend is watching this video, hi, let me know in the comments. Oh my gosh, that'd be so cool if we could help each other out, because I'm also going through the querying, which I'm gonna explain what that is a little bit. I'm trying to get an agent to get published for a book that I'm writing and also a children's novel, so I thought maybe this could be helpful for somebody who's also looking to publish a novel and doesn't really know exactly where to begin. This is a really watered down kind of overview of all the different options that you have, different terms you need to know depending on which option you choose, etc. Before we begin, I would just like to say please subscribe to my channel. I work really hard on these videos and I do a lot of research, and I don't want you to miss any awesome content from your friendly neighborhood sassy blonde writer. Now that that's out of the way, let's get started. So when it comes to publishing a book, you have two main options. You can go the traditional publishing route, which is where you use a publishing firm. The firm is going to help you edit your book. They're going to help you figure out marketing. They're going to help you with the cover. You're going to have a bunch of people taking care of things. Same is true for indie publishing, so I tend to kind of lump indie publishing and traditional publishing together because the author is involved in similar ways where you have like a team of people who are helping you with everything. The firm is going to be the one who talks to Amazon. The firm is going to be the one that goes to Barnes & Noble and pitches the book. The firm is going to be the one who makes ads that they put on the subway and etc, etc. Then on the other side of things, you have self-publishing. Self-publishing is exactly what it sounds like. When the author has put themselves in charge of everything involving the book. They are involved with picking out the editor. They are involved with picking out the cover design. They are involved with developing the marketing plan and figuring out all of that sort of thing. They're also involved with distribution, so a lot of times the author themselves has to package and ship out the books themselves. Each of them has their own pros and cons. In self-publishing, the author is extremely involved with the process because, I mean, they're doing it all themselves. However, that also means it can be a lot of work. So if you have a day job, that may or may not be for you. On the other side of things, for traditional publishing, you're not as involved as the author, but they will take care of everything for you. You also don't have to shell out your own money for it. There's also a bunch of other things to consider. I'm going to link to a video by Author Level Up that goes over the pros and cons of each in a more detail-oriented way. So, when you want to publish a book, you basically have three different options within these two paths. For traditional publishing, you can submit your book to individual publishers yourself. That means you're in charge of researching them, you're in charge of mailing your manuscript to them or emailing it to them as well. You're also in charge of finding out who you send that to. If you choose traditional publishing, you can also get an agent. The process of getting an agent is similar to applying for a job, only once they accept, it's the other way around and they work for you. A little weird. That process is called querying. Why it's called querying, I'm not entirely sure. Think of querying like applying for a job, only instead of giving them your resume, you're giving them your manuscript. Once you get an agent, the agent is going to do their best to make sure that you get your book published, because if you get a publishing deal, they get a percentage of whatever that deal is. That's how the agents make their money, so it is in their best interest that you get published. If you find an agent who is asking you to pay them like a flat fee of some sort, or some type of compensation outside of a publishing deal, that's definitely a red flag. But the agent will be in charge of sending them to publishers because they will have all the contact information for that. So the way you find an agent, I'm going to go into that later, so stay tuned. The other option, of course, like I said before, is self-publishing. Now, admittedly, I'm not really interested in self-publishing. There are certain types of books that do really well in traditional publishing, like YA or children's books, and then there are certain types of books that do really well in self-publishing. Self-publishing is a little bit easier to do because there are less barriers to entry. You don't have to send anything to an agent. You don't have to send it off to publishers. You don't necessarily have to go through a billion rounds of edits when you think your book is perfectly fine. However, self-publishing can be very expensive up front, and you have to do everything yourself. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're trying to choose between the two. After you pick which option is best for you, you're going to go through the following steps of the publication process: copy editing, production, printing, and printing's electronic equivalents, marketing, and distribution. So 5 steps altogether to the publishing process. These steps are essentially the same whether you are doing traditional publishing or you are doing self-publishing as well. The only difference is really who is doing those steps with you. So like I said, in traditional publishing and indie publishing, the author tends to have their own team of people who are helping them out with everything, and the publishing firm is footing the bill. Self-publishing, the author gets to hand-pick who they have involved if they decide to have anyone involved. Now, I did say I was going to talk about this. What is a query? This was a question that I had a lot when I first came to AuthorTube because I didn't know what this term was. So like I was saying before, simply put, a query is just a little packet that you hand to an agent so that way they can decide if they want to try to market your book. It really is easier if you think of it as doing a job, as applying for a job. That's kind of what a query is. You're just applying for an agent and then they work for you. Kind of like applying for a job but in reverse because they'll work for you. But your book is your resume, so that's of course something you have to send to them. And then your query letter is basically your cover letter. You talk about your book, just like on a cover letter, you talk about your resume, and you talk about yourself and your experience. And then the rest is really up to them. If you decide to do the traditional publishing path, then you don't have to really worry about what querying is, but I feel it's important to at least know what these different terms are, so that way you're kind of more informed on the whole process. How do you find an agent, you're probably wondering? I did tell you I'd get to that. So you can research different literary agencies and research different agents and do all this different stuff, or you can use querytracker.net. I'll link to it down below. They have a free version. I sprung for the pro version, or I don't forget what the name is, but it's basically the pro version where it gives you some more detailed results on different agents. Well, when you're trying to figure out which agent is for you, you really want to look at their specific genres. Some agents have their own wish lists of books that they really want to see at that particular moment, but you want to make sure that you apply to the correct agent for your genre. A person who primarily does children's picture books is not going to want to see your adult erotica. On the other side, someone who primarily does YA fantasy will not want to see your YA thriller. Read the directions that they give you wherever it is, if it's on querytracker.net or if it's just on their company's website. It's one of those things where you kind of automatically get some points for just following the directions, and then the rest is kind of up to them. Now, agents can reject people for all sorts of reasons. Maybe that's just not what they're looking for right now. Maybe their caseload is a little bit too big. Now, like I said before, I just started this querying process, so I am not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So I highly recommend the 2 channels that I've been checking out to kind of do my query prep work are Alexa Dunn's channel and Lizelle Sambury. They are both traditionally published authors, and they actually have agents, so I think they're a little bit more qualified than me to talk about this, so I will link to them down below and give them a little love. So that's just a little introduction to the 2 methods of publishing, different ways you can get your book published, and a brief overview of the publishing process, querying, and how to find agents. If you have any other questions, please let me know in the comments below, and I will do my very best to answer them. If there's anything I missed in this video, please also let me know below. If you enjoyed this, please hit that like button so I know this is the type of content that you guys want to see. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any sassy blonde content from your friendly neighborhood sassy blonde writer. And, of course, happy writing.